World War II leaned on armored cars for scouting and escort. Today, we will tour 6 nations and their key designs. Let's start with Germany. SDKFZ 221 and 222 were small 4-wheel scout cars with thin armor and turrets. The 222's 20mm autocannon could chew up infantry and soft vehicles, so you often saw these leading early war patrols in Poland, France, and Russia. They gave German commanders quick eyes on the battlefield before heavier units moved in. SDKF's 231 and radio-equipped 232 were 6-wheel armored cars with a 20mm gun. They gave early German divisions long-range patrols and mobile command posts. But rough ground and growing enemy firepower soon exposed how vulnerable they really were. On roads, they ranged far ahead, but mud and snow punished them. SDKF's 234/1 was an 8-wheel armored car with a 20mm gun in an open turret. Fast on roads and capable off-road, it scouted for late-war panzer units and could hose down infantry or soft targets when needed. Crews liked its balance of speed, visibility, and enough firepower to scare light armor. SDKFZ 234/2, nicknamed Puma, used the same chassis but added a fully enclosed turret with a 50mm gun. It combined speed, good optics, and useful anti-tank firepower, so crews who handled it could punch above their weight. In the right hands, it could stalk enemy tanks from surprising angles. SDKF's 263 kept the 8-wheel layout, but carried a tall, fixed hull with a large radio antenna. It usually sat behind the point elements, working as a rolling command post that linked scattered recon patrols with divisional headquarters. Without it, fast-moving reconnaissance thrusts would have felt blind and disconnected. German recon cars led many spearheads. America answered with simpler global designs. The M3 Scout car was basically an armored truck with an open top and ring-mounted machine guns. Early in the war, it handled reconnaissance, command, and personnel transport, later sliding into support and rear area roles once newer armored cars appeared in numbers. It was simple, loud, and dusty, but crews appreciated the protection compared to an open Jeep. The M8 Greyhound was a 6-wheel armored car with a 37mm gun and strong road speed. You would find it escorting columns, probing forward, and racing along European roads as the main American armored car in the later war. Against real tanks, it struggled, yet as a fast scout, it did what doctrine expected. The M20 was a turretless cousin of the M8, trading the gun turret for an open crew space. It carried radios, extra ammunition, and sometimes recoil-less rifles, serving as a command, liaison, and scout vehicle for fast-moving units. Officers used it as an office, map table, and radio room on wheels. T-17. E-1 Staghound was a heavier 4-wheel armored car built in the United States, but fielded mainly by British and Commonwealth troops. With a 37mm gun, long range, and a roomy hull, it excelled at long patrols in Italy and Northwest Europe. In tight European villages, it felt big, but on long routes, its comfort and stability really showed. Alongside purpose-built armored cars, American forces also used light half-tracks and converted trucks for reconnaissance duties. These improvised scouts showed how flexible American units could be when a dedicated armored car was not available in a theater. You can picture a column where jeeps, half-tracks, and armored cars all share the same dirty road. American crews liked fast road cars, but Soviet designers pushed heavier gun carriers. BA-3 and BA-6 were six-wheel heavy armored cars with 45mm tank guns and turrets. Their firepower impressed in the 1930s, but high weight, tall profiles, and poor off-road performance made them vulnerable once large battles began. They looked like small tanks, but crews knew a well-placed shell or mine could stop them. BA-10 was an improved 6x4 design with better armor and the same 45mm gun. It became the most common heavy Soviet armored car before 1941, often used like a wheeled tank during early clashes with German forces. When roads were firm, it worked well, yet deep snow or mud turned it into an easy target. BA-20 rode on a car chassis, carried only a machine gun, and prioritized speed and simplicity. It worked as a scout and signal vehicle in quieter sectors, but once the war escalated, it proved too fragile for serious frontline work. For many crews, it was better than nothing, but no one mistook it for a real tank. BA-64 was a compact four-wheel scout car with sloped armor and a single machine gun. Inspired partly by captured German designs, it escorted columns, crept ahead of infantry, and stayed in service through the late war push into Central and Eastern Europe. A tight interior and rough ride made it uncomfortable, yet it was small enough to hide easily. Several BA series armored cars were fitted with rail wheels so they could run directly on tracks. These rail-capable versions patrolled lines, supported armored trains, and helped protect vital supply routes across the vast Soviet railway network. They show how the Red Army tried to armor almost every part of its vast transport network. If you enjoy this hardware tour, subscribe for more deep dives into World War II machines. Now let's discuss about United Kingdom. The Morris CS-9 and similar early armored cars were quick stopgaps on commercial truck frames with light armor and machine guns. They served in France and the Western Desert until more capable purpose-built designs took over frontline work. The Humber armored car became one of Britain's main wartime armored cars, with a turret carrying heavy machine guns or small cannon. It was used in North Africa, Italy, and Northwest Europe, and earned a solid reputation as a dependable reconnaissance platform. The Daimler armored car was a well-regarded four-wheel design, with good cross-country manners and a 2-pounder gun. Reconnaissance regiments liked its mix of firepower, quiet running, and reliability, which let it slip close to enemy lines and still fight clear. The AEC armored car moved into heavy territory, almost like a small tank with a bigger gun. Armed with a 6-pounder or 75mm cannon, it backed lighter cars and sometimes acted as a mini-tank in European campaigns. Marmon Harrington armored cars were South African-built and served widely with Commonwealth forces. Simple and rugged, they brought mobility to rough North African and Middle Eastern terrain when more refined British vehicles were scarce. Next on our list, Italian forces leaned on desert armored cars. Autoblinda AB-40 was the first of the series, a four-wheel armored car with twin machine guns in its turret. Firepower was limited, but mobility and range were good, so it handled basic scouting duties before stronger versions arrived. Autoblinda AB-41 became Italy's main wartime armored car, keeping the same hull but adding a 20mm cannon. It served in North Africa, on the Eastern Front, and later in Italy, and was often captured and reused by German forces. Autoblinda AB-43 arrived late with a more powerful engine and a simplified turret. Only small numbers were built, many under German control, but it showed how far the basic AB concept could be pushed as a fast, hard-hitting scout car. The SPA Viberti AS-37 and related Autoprotetta variants were light armored trucks used for patrol and convoy escort. They lacked the full protection of AB cars, but were easier to build and maintain, which mattered in a strained war economy. Camioneta Sahariana was an open reconnaissance truck with light armor and multiple machine guns or cannons. It was built for deep desert raids, a kind of Italian answer to long-range patrol units harassing enemy supply lines. Now, time to discuss Japanese armored cars. The Type 92, often called Ju Sokosha, was really a small tracked vehicle used like a cavalry armored car. Armed with machine guns and light cannons, it fought in Manchuria and northern China in the early 1930s. The Type 93 Sumida was a six-wheel armored car that could swap its tires for rail wheels. That trick let it run on tracks for rail security and patrol duties in occupied regions where roads were scarce or unreliable. Type 97 and other Chiyoda-based armored cars were used mostly in China for patrol and internal security missions. Light armor and small weapons made them better suited to colonial policing than hard frontline fighting against modern enemy forces. Later in the war, simple armored cars, such as the Type 100, appeared for garrison and anti-partisan roles. They saw little front-line combat, but showed Japan's shift toward low-cost internal security vehicles as the conflict dragged on. Japanese forces also pressed captured Chinese and Allied armored cars into service whenever it seemed useful. These improvised additions filled gaps in secondary theaters, even though spare parts and ammunition were often a constant headache. From tiny scouts to heavy gun carriers, these armored cars shaped the war's edges. Which one is your favorite today? Tell us in the comments.